Can I get a second? Second by Castile. Y'all sleeping? Y'all need a break? Council discussion. Any blue cards? Please call the vote.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Resolution 45, 2017, a resolution of the Lafayette City-Parish Council authorizing and approving a 5-year renewal of the second intergovernmental contract between Lafayette City-Parish Consolidated Government and the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, with the Cajun Dome Commissioner as intervener for the control and operations of the Cajun Dome as previously authorized by Ordinance 196, 2012.
Motion by everybody, second by everybody. Let's give that one to Conkin Abear. Mr. Terrio.
Who do we have that I guess maybe attorney-wise that can address a couple of questions I have on the Cajun Dome?
Got a bunch of attorneys in here tonight. One I need to talk to.
Okay, Mr. Hebert, a couple of quick questions. I'm noticing here just from the verbiage that was read is that it is a 5-year renewal.
Yes, sir.
I've currently been on the council 10 years. We have not had any renewals come before this council for a Cajun Dome committee, for the Cajun Dome.
There was a 2012 second intergovernmental agreement that renewed the first one, and the 2012 agreement was for a term of 5 years and provides that it can be extended for an additional 5. So that's why you're here now.
Because I remember having a discussion with a previous administration that the previous contract that was agreed upon between UL and LCG had in fact expired. Is there any truth to that?
I don't remember that discussion, but I can tell you in 2012 there was a new contract that was entered into that had a 5-year term which expires on October 31st, and what is before the council here is to extend that for one additional 5-year term, which is permitted by the 2012 contract.
Okay. Couple of questions, and I guess Mr. Aber, you can probably answer some of these. Who owns the Cajun Dome?
The Cajun Dome is a creature of a contract. Well, it's run by the Cajun Dome Commission, which is a creature of contract between the City of Lafayette and UL Lafayette. Their state law permits intergovernmental agreements whereby a commission is created for a particular purpose. The commission can be granted whatever powers the contract gives to it, and that happened way back in, I think it was 1987, and the original idea of the Cajun Dome was established by an act of the legislature, and the funding was by primarily by the state of Louisiana.
You did a real good swerve on that, Mr. Aber, but I think the actual person who owns, the actual entity that owns the Cajun Dome is UL. UL,
I
through
believe
the
that to be
contract,
correct.
stipulates
I believe that, yeah. I didn't mean not to answer that. I believe that to be
the
correct.
Cajun Dome. So, LCG has contributed to them since, like you mentioned, 1987?
Yes, sir.
Since 1987, do you know how much the taxpayers of Lafayette had contributed to the Cajun Dome?
I would have no idea.
You don't want to take a guess?
No.
The facility itself cost roughly about, back then, I think the projection was $20 to $23 million. That's what I was told.
Okay.
So far, since back then, LCG's been contributing to the Cajun Dome. Since 1987, the taxpayers of Lafayette have paid between $25 and $50 million to the Cajun Dome. And the kicker here is that the taxpayers of Lafayette do not own 1 square foot of the Cajun Dome. Not an inch, nothing. UL owns the Cajun Dome. Next question, I guess I'm not going to ask you because you wouldn't know that. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we continue to contribute to them. And, you know, you're going to have many that say for every dollar invested, you're going to get $4 or $5 back. I hear that. We've all heard that a million times. But when is enough enough? I mean, $25 to $50 million on drainage, roads, and other things like that in the city of Lafayette could go a long way, especially since we don't own a square foot of it. And my question was, I was going to ask, and maybe I can get with the Cajun Dome on this, is that how many scheduled events were there last year, excluding UL events that are open to the public? You're not seeing as many as you used to.
Greg Davis.
No, I'm going to call him later. We're looking at here in the contract, basically it stipulates that we'll continue to give $500,000 a year, correct?
There's an operating.
Plus a $100,000 O&M
Yes,
amount.
yes.
So you're looking at a maximum of $600,000.
Yes.
Now, in the past, that number has fluctuated. Minimum 500. I've seen it go up to 750, and actually, the initial distribution in '87 through initial next 5-7 years was a lot higher than that amount. Today, we're going to continue giving $600,000, over $500,000 to a year. We've been doing since 1987. Go ahead and get Mr. Escott on, if you don't mind. Mr. Escott, go ahead.
Sure. And the exact number Ms. Toops may have for us, but the contract has what we call a budgeted funds provision.
Right.
And which essentially provides for the payment to coincide with whatever the funds are that are budgeted for that line item. And if I remember correctly, the previous year's budget as well as the current fiscal 17-18 budget reduces the line item of 500 down to 200 and some odd
But that was
thousand.
for a short period, Mr. Escott.
I'm just saying for the current
The
fiscal.
public records request back in 2010, 2011, and even back then, I had a number that was approaching $25 million. Actually, it was a lot higher than that.
Councilman, I'm not arguing with your numbers.
Right, you're just saying that the stipulation from 500,000 or 600,000 can go up and down depending on.
I was simply making the statement that.
Down,
For the
it can't
current.
go up over, it can't go over. It
Over
can
the
go-
600.
Right.
can go
And-
down.
And I was simply clarifying that for the current fiscal year, as well as the upcoming fiscal year of 17-18, the figure it is not 500, it's some odd 200 plus the operating.
Gotcha. Mr. Boudreau, include Ms. Toops in here just for a second. Ms. Toops, what was the lowest amount given to the Cajun Dome in the last 5 years?
I don't have 5 years' history in front of me,
Last
but the
1, 2,
current
3?
year is $392,065. You might remember when we were looking at the parish budget, we had to make some really hard drops and cuts in the parish budget. So when we did our city-parish allocation of the Cajun Dome, we did the allocation, we cut the parish's amount out, so the parish doesn't put anything up for the Cajun Dome, and the remainder that was left in the calculation was $392,065 from operating money and $100,000 for capital.
Now
They
the-
don't always get that $100,000, it just depends upon if they apply for it.
Now that you mentioned that, you did remind me, yes, I remember seeing that sheet, that with the parish's portion that would have been contributed, since the administration had cut it, that reduced it 100 and something thousand, which would have brought it to the 500,000 or so. So prior to last year's budget, it was still at the 500,000 range. I guess the point I'm trying to get at is that here we are, we're giving it to them, and I know I hear this, that it's a benefit to Lafayette, but we have millions and millions that have been given to the Cajun Dome, but yet we have maybe an initiative that's coming up in November, and we're asking for, 500,000 or a little over. Here's that money. That's just what I see. Why should we ask or rededicate monies when we have funds here. I mean, I guess the question might be a priority, but I know the questions have always posed, what do you do with the Cajun Dome if LCG doesn't contribute the money? It might deterioration or fall below standards or something. But again, the question is, who owns the Cajun Dome? UL owns the Cajun Dome. LCG does not. And anyway, Mr. Chair, Steve, thank you. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council discussion? Okay, don't see anything, Mike. Thank you. Any blue cards on this item? Please call the vote.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
No.
District 2? District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 5? Motion to adopt is approved.
Thank you very much. We are going to deviate from the agenda just for a second before moving into ordinances for final adoption. A very special time in a council meeting has presented itself. We have members of the Boy Scouts who are here with us from Fatima, so we want to ask them to come forward. I'm going to ask Mr. Patrick Lewis, who represents this community. We apologize that we didn't see you all sitting out there initially, but Mr. Pat Lewis has a nice little special presentation for each of you. Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I'm glad you guys waited patiently. Again, we didn't realize, I didn't see you guys, but again, they're from Troop 446 with the Fatima group. So appreciate you guys are here. And these are the Boy Scouts. There's no Girl Scouts yet, right? Okay, just Boy Scouts. Okay, good.
Hey,
okay.
y'all be tripping.
Congratulations.
We're going to ask them to go to the mic and introduce themselves. Yeah. Parents, if y'all want to come and take a picture, not sure why y'all would want us in the background, but that's another discussion item. But if y'all want to take a picture of them here at the meeting, and then after that, they could maybe go to the mic and share with us their levels or what badge they may be working on. And hold, look, you're missing one of the pictures. Come. Yeah. We got nothing but time here, man. And look. All right. Now, y'all go to that mic, guys, and introduce yourself one at a time. Everybody can follow suit. I know y'all walk in straight lines in the sky. Name, school, and if you're working on a badge for being here today, you could share that with us as well.
Hi, my name is Eric Wade Lambusi. I am with Troop 446 at Our Lady of Fatima School. I am in 7th grade, and I am at the rank of, I believe, 1st class or 2nd class. I forgot.
Whatever is high, I would take it. I mean,
I get it mixed up. And I am working on citizenship in the community right now, and
that's good. That's good. Next.
I would also like to thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting.
Oh yeah, you're gonna run for office soon, I could tell.
Hello, my name is Augustine Tarazona. I'm from Troop 446. I'm 13, and right now I have 1st class right now, but I'm really star. I just didn't put it on yet.
All right.
And I'm working on citizenship in the community, because that's why we came here, to write what the issue was and what we were talking about. So
Good.
glad to be attending this meeting.
Thank you.
I'm Noah Simpson from Troop 446. I'm in 7th grade. I'm going to turn 13 tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
I'm going to be 1st class tomorrow, hopefully, and I am working on citizenship in the community. Thank you for letting me attend this meeting.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Griffin Hooper from Troop 446. I'm currently working on the tenderfoot rank. I'm in 6th grade at Fatima, turning 12 in a month. And thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Harry Spees. I'm from Our Lady of Fatima Troop 446. I am working on the tenderfoot requirement, and I'm in 6th grade. I have just turned 11 in August, and I just want to thank you for letting me be at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matthew Bailey. I'm from Pack 446. I'm working on the rank to get to tenderfoot. I'm from Fatima, and I'm working on the citizenship of the community badge. And thank you for letting me attend this meeting.
Thank you. That's everyone. Guys, we want to thank you all for attending this meeting. Thank you very much and best of luck. Now we're going to move to ordinances for final adoption. Jeremy, item number 11.
Ordinance 193, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City-Parish Council declaring the building or structure located at 804 Oaklawn Avenue, Lafayette, Louisiana, owned by Wilson L. Boudreaux and Bertha Dugas, care of Gerald J. Block, attorney appointed, to be dilapidated and dangerous to the public welfare and ordering the condemnation of same.
Motion by Conk, second by Terrio. Council discussion? There is none. Any blue cards on this item?
Yes, sir. We have 5 citizens who signed in, did not wish to speak, but supports the ordinance. We do have 2 speakers signed in, Melissa Castile.
Ms. Castillo?
Good evening. My name is Melissa Castile. I represent Boardwalk Investors, an owner of this property located at 804 Oaklawn Avenue. My client, Boardwalk, acquired an ownership interest in this property at the 2012 City of Lafayette tax sale. The 3-year redemptive period within which to redeem that tax sale expired in 2015. At that point, in accordance with the substantive tax sale laws, my client became an owner of this property in co-ownership with the owners that have been mentioned and named and cited in this ordinance. Just late this August, my client was notified of these proceedings and the intention of the parish to deem this property condemned and eventually demolished. I'm here today to advise of my client's desire to bring the property up to code, fully recognizing the frustration of the property owners, but also asking that the condemnation ordinance be deferred so as to allow my client additional time to take possession of the property and bring it up to code in accordance with the parish's wishes. We've only recently been notified of these issues by the parish, and we were told that today was our opportunity to appear to voice an opposition to the ordinance being confirmed. Again, when we were notified of these proceedings, at that point is the point in time when we also learned that the prior owners, or the other 99% owners, had actually vacated the property and had allowed it to fall in such a state of disrepair. At the end of September, my client took possession of the property, placed boards on all the windows and doors, removed the overgrown brush, and began maintaining this property. I have receipts evidencing these expenditures that have been incurred, totaling $1,051.38. In addition to those funds that were spent on this property, my client has paid both city and parish taxes close to $8,000. They've paid the 2011 city and parish taxes all the way through the 2016 taxes on this property. We have a vested interest in maintaining and bringing this property up to code. We have an investment in this property. We believe, based on local realtors' fair market value estimate, that this property is worth anywhere between $70,000 to $85,000 in its current condition. But if repaired and brought up to code, it could be sold on the fair market for up to $185,000 based on area comps. We believe that it's a waste to have this property demolished when we have an entity that's willing to take possession and bring it to code. We just need additional time to do so, and we would like to do so without the requirement of having to post a bond and to enter into a contract with the parish. We believe that we should be given additional time to take action prior to this ordinance being confirmed. One of the issues that we do take with the ordinance in its current form is that it does not recognize my client as an owner of the property when in fact they are. And so that would be one issue. The second would be that, again, we were only just notified late August of this year of these issues when in fact the property has been in disrepair for quite some time. We would ask that we be given the same opportunity as the other property owners in the same amount of time in order to bring this property to code. So for these reasons, we would ask that the ordinance be deferred this evening and not confirmed.
Thank you. Randy, could you come forward, please? What is the date of first complaint on this property?
October 2016.
So we just at a year's point on this one?
Yes, yes. I think the police had a lot of other complaints because of a homeless guy that's staying in the house. Matter of fact, since they boarded it up, I think 2 weeks ago, he kicked in the door last week or something, so he was in the house. He was in the house this morning.
The original owner?
I think he may be step-grandson or grandson, but he just came out of jail and he's homeless, and he was the one that was in the house.
When you went there this morning, did you see, other than the boarding up, did you see any significant improvements to the facility or any cleanup of the facility other than the securing?
No, none at all.
Was the structure checked for soundness? Is it structurally sound?
I would say it is structurally sound, but it is a fire hazard with winter coming. He lives in a house. The residents are concerned about those problems.
Okay, Mr. Bellard?
Yes, when did you say that y'all own 100% of the property?
We own a 1% interest, so up until the point that the previous owners, or the 99% owners, vacated the property, by law, we couldn't evict them to take possession of this property. And again, we just learned that they voluntarily vacated and have allowed it to go into disrepair. But we own a 1% interest, and we have a pending suit to quiet the tax sale title and to partition the property, and that's pending in Lafayette Parish here, and we have a recorded notice of Liz Pendens, also recorded in the parish mortgage and conveyance records, putting everyone on notice of those pending proceedings.
So until then, you don't have 100%, you just have 1% until the judge rules and fixes the title?
We have a 1%, then it will be offered at public auction for the public to bid on the entirety of the property. If there is no bidder, my client intends to bid to become the 100% owner. But in the meantime, until these things happen, my client is willing to do what the parish is asking to bring this property up to code. We do have legal avenues to recoup any money that we would put into the property, and so we would do it under those guises.
Because I guess where I'm having a little heartburn with this is that's an investment for your client. I don't know how far he's willing to go to do this if you don't have 100% title.
Well,
I mean, I guess my worry is this. I don't know estimated how much it's going to take to bring this up to code. It seems to me like a business risk until you have 100% vested title.
Well, the Code of Civil Procedure in Louisiana provides for reimbursement to tax sale purchasers and to co-owners out of the proceeds of a sheriff's sale. So should this be sold to a third party, and a third party would acquire 100% interest, we are seeking the legal avenues through the courts to recoup all money put into the property, which would include taxes, repair, maintenance, any costs associated with this property that my client would have expended.
And when were y'all notified?
We were notified at the end of August. And
Have
so
y'all done anything? You said y'all done something out there.
we have, in fact, I have an invoice that I'd like to provide to the clerk to circulate copies, and I also have pictures indicating, showing what boards were put up, and
So basically you just boarded it.
we purchased 12 boards, boarded up, it says 21 windows, I'm assuming that includes counterparts of entire windows, and 5 doors. And again, we mowed and removed and trimmed some shrubs and heavy wooded plants, and we paid a total of $1,051 to have this work performed by a third party.
Okay. And they received a certified letter just like we always do, Randy?
No, they did not.
They did not?
No.
Were we supposed to send them a certified letter, Mr. Escott?
Hold on, Paul. Okay.
I'm not.
Yes, sir.
All right. I believe that the easy answer is whether we were or weren't, we're no longer. She's waived her required Mennonite notice because she had notice in August. She's appeared at this public meeting and she's been prepared to address that issue. So whether or not there was technical notice requirements back in whenever the notices were sent out, that has been cured by her waiver.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Okay. So I'm just going to share this with you, ma'am, and I think you present a good case. You've represented your client extremely well. Know that. But although this isn't in the district that I represent, years ago, I initiated something that we refer to as Operation Blightout. We had so many of these throughout the city and the parish of Lafayette, and the impact it has on the community. And I totally appreciate when your client came into this situation. The problem with moving that timeline, if you could just bear with me, is that if every time a new person come into it or buy into it, we didn't extend that timeline, these communities will never get relief. You obviously know about a process that's in place, and for whatever reason, y'all invested over $1,000 in boards to board it up, and you're willing to make additional investments and able to make claims on this and file suits, but for some reason you have already taken the position that you're not interested in honoring what we need to be done, and that is to simply take out a bond which would afford you the time to do the things that you say you are going to do and that you then will get a return on. I don't know why that's not a consideration, but that's your client's choice. My choice here tonight is going to be to support our ordinance, because we have a remedy in place, a very reasonable remedy that has proven to serve well, because there are people who've been subjected to this for a year. You may have come in August, your client may have come in August, but there's a community that had to deal with this. We also have pictures, because Randy them do, you know, the boards are secured. There's still a significant hole in the roof according to these pictures. The internal the internal keeping of the house is absolutely nothing. And if there is someone who feels he has that 99% or some percentage of ownership himself, what I'm taking from that is that there is going to be a continuous security problem at this location until you are able to get full ownership. And as he indicated, with the winter coming, at least we hope, you know, with what we've been experiencing around here, you know, there's going to be an immediate risk of fires, because the natural recourse for that person is going to be to stay warm somehow. I think I'm very confident in our process, and I would hope that you reconsider, but I'm going to vote to support this condemnation. And like I say, it's as fair as I think anybody could ask for under these conditions. And I agree that if the house is structurally sound and can be brought back into commerce, and that is what your client wants to do, I wish they would. But as a government, and as we try to protect the greater community, we have to go forward. We stayed with these things too long, and it has literally, fortunately, I don't know this area, how many of these may exist. I hope it's only one. But when we've had multiple of these types of experiences, it has literally destroyed communities, okay? And then it also creates an environment that is just not pleasing. So I hope you understand that. I hope you all would consider the remedy that's in front of you. And obviously, I'm sure you're well abreast of it, but Randy could explain how that process works. But I'm going to have to support this ordinance, support this community. This house, it has to be fixed, or it has to go. And the timelines are set. So
Thank you,
just wanted to
Councilman.
share that with you. I don't see any other comments for any of you at this time, so we're going to continue with blue cards.
Final speaker, Dale LeBlanc.
For LeBlanc?
And Mr. LeBlanc did provide me with a petition, and he'll explain the petition.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Lieutenant Colonel retired Dale LeBlanc. And
Service?
Say, sir?
I say thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Oak Lawn's been vacant, has had no utilities for several years, although an individual has been squatting there for several years and is still, as evidenced by the LCG housing inspector, there this morning. The Planning, Zoning, and Development Department has inspected this property and determined it should be condemned and recommended for tear down. The petition that I submitted to you all this evening has 80 signatures on this petition, and they are members of the neighborhood. We have seen the values of our property decrease because of the condition of this property. Additionally, we consider this property to be a danger to us as a fire hazard, as well as a hazard due to mold and other disgraceful excrement. In your packet, I think you will, or in my petition, you have a picture. How would you like to live next to this? And this is a picture in the inside, and that's not the worst picture. The house is torn apart. I've had one of the people that is a neighbor and an owner of the property, Dr. Azar, could not sell his house because of this property. And when he looked at the pictures to sign the petition, he said, quote, "Oh my God, there is all kinds of mold, and that is transmitted through the air. And that is a very health hazard in that home. And with a hole in the roof, we're exposed very much." We respectfully request that the City Council vote to condemn this property and keep our community safe as recommended by the Planning, Zoning, and Development Department of LCG. Thank you all very much for this opportunity to speak my piece. And those are the other 80 people that signed this petition.
Thank you. Mr. Conk?
This was the picture this morning.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. This property is in the district which I represent, and I would request and urge the council to approve the ordinance as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Conk. Was that our final speaker?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have satisfied the council. We have had all public speaking on this item. So we'll call the vote on item number 11, please.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 194, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code, so as to reclassify the properties of Greg Walls and Walter Scott Gordon, case number ZON 2017-28, 1334 and 1344 West Congress Street rezoning, located generally north of West Congress Street, east of Jasmine Street, and south of Bellevue Street. The particular parcels being rezoned from residential single-family to mixed-use neighborhood conditional.
Motion by Conk, second by Cook. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards?
Greg Walls.
Mr. Walls. He passes.
No
Only
other
speakers?
speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Call the vote, please.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 2? District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? Yes. Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 195, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City-Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to reclassify the property of Glenn J. Armentar, case number ZON 2017-29, 510 East Main Street rezoning, located generally southwest of East Main Street, southeast of Gordon Street, and northeast of Stewart Street, the particular parcel being rezoned from residential mixed to mixed-use neighborhood conditional.
Motion by Lewis, second by Cook. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards?
One citizen signed in, did not wish to speak, but supports the ordinance, Andre Montanay. And we do have one person signed in to speak, Aaron Shobut. He withdraw.
Okay, Aaron passes. That satisfies all of our speakers. Please call the vote.
District 9?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5? District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 8? Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 196, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City-Parish Council approving a conditional use permit to allow a bar/lounge in a mixed-use neighborhood zoning district, case number ZON 2017-30, 124 South Buchanan Street conditional use permit, located generally west of South Buchanan Street, north of West 2nd Street, and east of Monroe Street.
Motion by Lewis, second by Cook. Council discussion. Mr. Terrio.
Mr. Chair, maybe you can answer this to you or Mr. Lewis. I know at some time in previous meetings, there was some discussion about an ordinance or some kind of regulations that limited the number of bars or those downtown. Is this fall into those requirements?
Your mic is on, Mr. Lewis.
Ms. Terry, I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, call is there. That's not in the downtown area. That's where the bars are. We still have that moratorium. But that location there is not in the downtown
It does
area.
not fall
It
in
doesn't
that
fall in the-
prescribed area?
Yes, it doesn't fall
Okay,
in there.
good. Thank you so much.
Is that it, Mr. Terrio? Okay, any other council discussion? Any blue cards on this item?
One speaker, John Paul.
John Paul.
Thank you, I pass.
Thank you. Call the vote.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 8? District 9? Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 197, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City-Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to assign a zoning classification to properties annexed by Ordinance 140, 2017, case number ZON 2017-32, 109 Porter Lane et al., Samuel Dugas property annexation, located generally north of Porter Lane, west of St. Marguerite Street, and east of East Pinhook Road.
Motion by Conk. Second by Cook. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards?
No, sir.
Please call the vote.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 8? District 9?
Yes.
District 2? Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 198, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to assign a zoning classification to properties annexed by Ordinance 141, 2017, case number CON 2017-33, 112 Ridge Road et al. Annexation located generally north of Ridge Road, west of Johnson Street, and south of Westmark Boulevard.
Motion by Conk. Second by Abear. Council discussion. Any blue cards? Please call the vote.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 199, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 16-17 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government to provide for adjustments of revenue and appropriation estimates.
Motion? Motion by Cook. Second by Conk. Mr. Terrio.
Ms. Tubes, if you don't mind, could you give a quick explanation of what this is, please?
You may recall years ago, we prepared what we called a mid-year budget amendment, and trying to get the budget more in line with what we were going to expend, I changed our budget practices where we're budgeting now what we truly believe we're going to spend. But there's always some cleanup that has to be done at year end so that we stay in compliance with state law. So these are the cleanup items, the items that maybe ran a little bit, revenues that might be running a little bit short, or expenses that might be running over. State law requires us to be within 5% of our budgeted line items. So to be sure that we don't run afoul of any of those rules, we have prepared this. Since it's quite detailed, looking at the technical amendment, we provided you with a separate schedule that gives you a little description of each item individually.
Thank you so much. One final thing, we did not overshoot. You said you had a 5%, difference. You guys did not overshoot that in any way, did you?
I'm not sure I understand.
The 5% you were talking about, you said that you guys can do projections out up to 5%?
No, we can't change the budget without your permission.
I agree.
But if it looks like revenues are going to come in 5% under what we had originally budgeted, then we're supposed to come back to you and amend the budget. And if expenditures look like they're going to come in 5% over, then we come to you to amend the budget. There's some debate whether we should apply that departmentally by the fund. We feel like we are taking the conservative approach, and we are looking at each individual line item. So if that line item looks like it needed to be adjusted, we're bringing it back to you to have it adjusted.
I guess let me rephrase my question. Is that with the way you were budgeting, did you have many items that you guys had overshot that was above the 5% or less?
No, I think we did a pretty good job. I don't think we had a lot of changes. In the past, some of the budget practices, weren't what I like them, what I've implemented. So I think the changes are few. It's not that many.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you so much. That's all I have, sir.
Y'all won an award, huh?
Oh, did I tell you about that budget award? Oh, well. Unfortunately, Louisiana state law doesn't have anything to do with that budget award.
Any other council discussion? Any blue cards on this item? Please call the vote.
District 5? Yes. District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? District 2? District 3? District 4?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 200, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council revising the timeline for the payment of imputed taxes from the communication system of the Utilities Department to the City of Lafayette General Fund.
Motion by Conk. Second by Cook. You're gonna get one before the night over. There are a few questions on this item here. Mr. Yuval still with us? And since it's dealing with some finance, man, Ms. Toops, I'm also add you into the conversation. Let's just start off by kind of explaining what's being done here as it relates to advancing these payoffs.
Sure. The mic on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, name's Terry Huval. I'm the director of the utility system, which includes the telecommunications system. The Local Government Fair Competition Act that was passed by the legislature in 2004 provides a number of features in it dealing with how the system is going to operate and how it's going to manage, how it's going to consider the various revenues and expenses that are within the telecommunications system. One of the features in that particular law requires a computation of imputed taxes, and imputed taxes are the imputation of taxes that would normally be paid by a private company, things like sales taxes, property taxes, franchise fees, etc. And it required the telecommunications system to be able to calculate what those taxes would have been and to be able to pay those taxes to some entity. And that's last comment I made had to do with some of the Public Service Commission responsibilities associated with that law. And so initially, the way it was worked out is that those taxes were paid, well, actually, they were paid to LUS is what ended up happening. And then at some point, we were financially strong enough to where we saw that we could go ahead and have those taxes actually be paid to the general fund. So a couple of years ago, we came to this body and to the LPUA and made the recommendation that we begin a phase-in of those imputed taxes to be paid to the general fund, about $200,000 a year more each year. The telecommunications system has done so well in recent years and we know that the general fund needs more telecommunication services. The police department has approached us numerous times to build to use the telecommunication system for cameras to build to deal with crime. We have also received requests from the Parks and Recreations group that wants to be able to use more of the Wi-Fi and some of the features that we have in the telecommunications system for their purposes. IS&T, of course, is a big user of the system. And so what we decided to do based on where our finances were so far was to go ahead and make the recommendation to take all of those imputed taxes and send those to the general fund and let the general fund use those revenues to be able to purchase additional telecommunication services that they need to be able to perform their jobs. And so that's what this ordinance is about. It provides for all of the imputed taxes to go to the general fund and be used for the general fund purchasing additional telecommunication services to serve the public. And so that's what we're presenting here for your consideration tonight.
Okay, so initially, these same dollars was going to the utility fund, and now they're going to the general fund. Why the change? What was it doing going to the utility fund? Was it paying back anything?
No.
Or what was the determination to go to LUS versus the general fund?
According to the PSC rules, the money had to go somewhere. It didn't specify where it had to go. And so initially, at the early stages of the telecommunications system, it was helpful to the utility system to have it go to the utility system, let the utility system buy more telecommunication services. Things like we have like the smart grid, smart meters program, where we need telecommunication services related to that, items related to providing more reliability of power, how we operate our substations, our water plants, our water systems, our sewer systems, et cetera. So that's what we did at that point. Now we're at a point to where we wanted to be able to move it all to the general fund. So therefore, the utility system will no longer receive those revenues anymore, and it will go completely to the general fund so that the general fund can take advantage of these new revenues that they has to be able to purchase the services that they need.
Got you. So, Lori, I'm going to try you on this one. So, Are these funds in essence going to be dedicated specifically for what Terry said? Can they only be utilized for the purchase of tech type services and communication type services? Or when it goes to the general fund, it would be subject to all of the budgetary concerns that the mayor president may have as well as this council?
I believe based on the way this ordinance is written under Section 5, that this would give me the authority to amend the budget based on what is in this ordinance, and I would have to supply a copy of that amended budget to you. So it does appear that it would go to telecommunications. Is that right, Terry?
Correct. That's what the intention of this is.
Okay, so my question would be, who has the authority to determine that? Is this the director of the department? Mr. Robideau don't have any authority when he receives these funds. I would have set up too. He don't, once these funds go into the general fund, he doesn't have the ability to present it still obviously in a budget revision for consideration, but there is no leeway. This council don't have the ability to see this money coming in and say that maybe these things should be done, that none of that applies. Who is making the decision on the money coming now and what is done with it?
I believe the way this ordinance is written, the administration would make that decision, and then a copy would be sent to you, if I'm reading that correctly. I didn't write the ordinance, but that appears to be the intent.
Yeah, so, yeah, Mr. Escott, you want to throw him a lifeline?
I didn't write it.
Who wrote, you didn't write it either. Mike?
I can offer a suggestion if
Before we go to suggestions, if you don't mind, let's hold off. Let's see what can be done here.
Okay.
And how we got to the point where we at. Mr. Escott, normally when he reads something for a little while, and when Joe start holding his head like that, a lot of good information comes out. Yeah. And it would, but it's been time in input.
All right. The way I read the ordinance is that after it describes essentially what the imputed taxes are and that what the schedule is that's being revised, if you notice in section, well, actually before that, in the whereas clause, which is adopted in section 1 typically, as you always see in our ordinances, as part of this ordinance. One of the whereas clauses, I think it's the last one, indicates that the acceleration and the revised schedule of these payments is for the purchase of such services, that being telecommunications service. So it's establishing a particular purpose for which this ordinance is asking this council to revise the schedule and accelerate the payments. When you go to section 4, after the revised schedule, it clearly indicates in that section that the sums paid pursuant to that revised schedule, which it describes as consisting of the imputed taxes, shall be used for the purchase of additional services from the communications system. In lawyers' terms, that's mandatory.
Right. Even for people like us, Paul.
Right. Now, it does not talk about and is silent on the issue of what if there's amounts of monies left over. And the suggestion, well, I guess the general position would be for those amounts not needed to satisfy the shall requirement for those needed communication services, they would be just as if any other funds in the general fund, and that is unrestricted.
Okay. So that's kind of how I understood it as well. Section 1, establish a purpose. Section 4 mandates that we do that. So what's happening is here, we sending this money to the general fund to go spend it back from where it was provided. Okay? I have a problem with that. I don't know about everybody else. They got a lot of people want to speak. That circumvents the budgetary process. As I see it, that doesn't give the head of this government nor the legislators of this government any input on options on how we spend money coming into the general fund. And for me, that totally circumvents the budgetary process because somebody else is setting the priority for our spending. And I think they could make recommendations, but if something is owed, when it comes, this is what we're here for. And the considerations for everything that we're responsible for, not to say this is the only thing you could do. It's kind of like our dedicated millages, that we're going to receive it, but we could only do with it what has already been said, and I don't think that this is appropriate in this manner. So there's a lot of people to speak, so I'm going to continue the floor right now, but that was the concern that I wanted to get to, and we'll kind of just see where the discussion goes from here. Mr. Terrio.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Boudreaux touched base on a number of things that I was going to discuss, but I do want to step back on a couple of things. Mr. Huval, you mentioned also that in dealing with the imputed taxes, are we talking about the amount we're paying our outstanding imputed taxes only?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
You were talking earlier how we're talking about we're going to take all the imputed taxes that are owed now and combine them all at once. We're changing the schedule that you had mentioned earlier.
Yes, sir. So it accelerates the schedule.
So by accelerating the schedule to pay the imputed taxes, are we still paying we're accelerating what was owed outstanding? Because we're not going to pay future imputed taxes. We're accelerating the amount to LCG's general fund of outstanding imputed taxes.
Current.
So only in this fiscal year, Ms. Toops?
They don't have any outstanding imputed tax because it's paid each year.
So say last year they were all paid in whole and it was done. So this year the amount of imputed tax is just done for this particular year.
Right.
Good. That stops. All right, let's get back to
taxes are paid every year.
Right.
Every year. It's just a matter of whether to go to the utility system or to come to the general fund.
Got you.
And what we're trying to do here is to put it all going to the general fund.
Okay. I do want to follow up on a question I think a number of council members. Who wrote the ordinance?
We did.
We.
LUS did.
So LUS and you.
That's right.
So your attorneys wrote? Because Mike Aber and Mr. Escott didn't, so just LUS wrote the ordinance.
We prepared the ordinance, yes. It was our idea to do this. We didn't have to move in this direction. We prepared the ordinance in the form of where it was before to be able to accelerate the payments. So we already had an ordinance in place that provided for moving the imputed taxes from LUS, receiving them to the general fund on a step-by-step year basis until we moved all of it to it. This ordinance provided for moving all of the imputed taxes now, and with the provision of having the general fund take advantage of those new revenues to be able to purchase additional telecommunication services.
Okay. Ms. Toops, a question that hopefully you can answer is that with the transfer of the imputed taxes and bringing those all into the general fund at once for this one particular year that's owed, is that actually funds that are being transferred, or is it just a journal entry?
No, it's actual money, but the way this ordinance is written, it's not just for this 1 year, it's from now on.
Right,
So it'll
from this
be-
year into the future, that's how
Right.
it will proceed, which means that not only this year, let's say 200,000 or goes into the general fund, that has to be used for this particular purpose. As
They-
Mr. Escott said, shall be used for purchasing services for LCG. Next year, 300,000 goes in. 300,000 shall be used to purchase from LUS Fiber for advanced telecommunications, and so on.
That's the way it looks from this ordinance. I have a question, and the question would be, do you take the additional money that the city is receiving and increase telecommunications by that amount, or can it pay for existing telecommunications services? That's kind of where I'm,
The intention was for 100% of it to go into this fund that would purchase additional telecommunication services going forward. That's the intention of the ordinance.
So above and beyond the amount where LCG is already paying for telecommunications would be increased by a minimum 200, 300,000 each year.
No, it would be increased to a total of whatever the imputed taxes are. So if it turns out they're $1 million,
Right.
then the general fund will be receiving $1 million.
That's what I'm saying, it's a minimum that, though, I know with the imputed taxes. What's the average imputed taxes each year, Ms. Stoops?
I'm gonna have to defer to Antonio for that one.
Antonio, what were the imputed taxes for communications last year?
Antonio Connor, Customer and Support Services Manager for Utilities.
Yes, sir.
Last year, total imputed taxes was around $960.
$960,000.
That amount varies each year depending on
Right,
the amount of
depending
activity.
on sales and that. So I knew it was somewhere between $750,000 and, say, $1.2 million. So you're looking at $1 million a year, and per this ordinance, additional, like we were just discussing, each year, an additional $1 million will absolutely be spent on additional LUS telecommunication services.
We're already getting 400, so it's your intention that anything over that 400 would be spent for new.
That's correct.
So that 400, I would think, would not be included in what's going to telecommunications, but anything over that amount?
Well, you're looking at an additional 600,000 minimum, probably 500-600. Now, Mr. Huval, I think you touched base. One of my questions were, I think that got to you, what additional advanced telecommunications services, and you were talking about the body cameras and other additional feeds and all that. And I think a while back, we had a discussion about what LCG is paying to LUS Fiber for all of its services per year, and I remember that amount back then, and I actually got your slides, and that's showing that's a substantial amount of money LCG gives for telecommunications. Just Lafayette Consolidated Government, you're looking at about $6 million a year. So this, Ms. Toops, would be above and beyond that, but
I don't think that's correct. I mean, that's what you're asking, what the general fund is paying to LUS.
the Lafayette City General Fund is paying between $5 and $6 million for telecommunications each year to LUS
I don't think
Communications.
that's correct.
Well, the information I have, that's,
Well, Antonio, can you help me with that? About how much is that?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the Lafayette City-Parish General Fund does not pay. The lion's share of that comes from the purchase of wholesale services from the Utilities Department, not from the City General Fund.
so it's coming from the City General Fund and the LUS?
Combination of the two.
I think it sounds like the entity-wide number. It could be anywhere from the library, the health unit, the Public Works Department, all of LCG funds.
Okay.
Yeah, I seem to think that number from the general fund to LUS is somewhere around $1.5 million. Maybe $2 million a year, or somewhere in that direction. The $6 million is a total for the entire, with LUS and LCG. And we can provide that information too, we just don't have it right here.
I'll have to follow up. But let me do this. I know there's some other people that have questions too. I'll tend to some of my additional questions till later. That's all I have for now, Mr. Boudreaux.
Okay, so Lori, the issue is this. I mean, I understand we already purchase services. I have heard firsthand the demand for additional services. I've heard the police chief. We went through this camera thing and the cost, and we got a lot of cameras out there now, and we didn't have many options as it related to communications at that time and the ability to do that. I understand the need. What I'm trying to wrap my arms around is the process. If we pass this ordinance, is that the last time we see this, or will these funds be subject to the normal budgetary review like all other funds when it becomes, because everything is not going to one place, I assume. When will we see what is the request from, you mentioned recreation, when we will see what is the request from the police department, what is the request from the fire department, and how this is being divvied up, I guess. I know that I understand the IT demands and where we're going in the world today. I get that. But I don't want to write necessarily a blank check. I would like to know that this is coming back in this council, and I would assume the mayor is going to want to have some input, and this council have the opportunity to yea or nay that line item for Wi-Fi in the rec centers, or the ability for the police cameras to do more things, and whatever it amounts to. Do we get another look, or is this going to say that now you just arbitrarily distribute money in IT line items throughout this government?
I'll give you what I believe is the correct answer, and I'll hold open for Mr. Prescott to correct any of my information that I have. Okay, I believe this ordinance, I believe the reason why he did this way is because we've already got an adopted budget. So this ordinance would allow me to increase the revenues from the imputed tax, and it would allow me to increase the telecommunications line items based on what these guys tell me, based on the needs of the city, for this one fiscal year only. And we have to give you that information after we make that budget amendment, so you will see it. And
you give it to us in the form of to vote on, or to look at it and get mad?
It's one of those things that we have to give you after the fact for this current year, but for all future years, it would be money that is run through the regular normal budget process. So the reason why I'm guessing he did it this way this year is because they thought about it after the budget was proposed and adopted, but for future years, it will be included in the proposed budget, and you will see it each year as it's divided up amongst all the departments. This would not give us any authority to do a technical budget revision beyond this one budget year. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Let me ask a specific question. I've been told that if you want an answer from a lawyer, you got to ask a specific question. Is the language in there that prohibits this from happening beyond this year? And if not, it's a matter of adding a letter or a number and making sure that it's in there, because people become more comfortable when it's written. So is the language in there to assure that what is being considered now is only for this instance?
You mean for the current fiscal year? Or for the already adopted fiscal year?
Right, the 17-18. Because the budget is already adopted. You could join us, Mike, at any time. You're about to fall at your seat.
No, the language in the current ordinance is not clear enough, in my opinion, that it restricts it to to the one-time, already adopted budget year.
Okay.
It is not specific enough, in my opinion.
Is that something you could fix for us tonight?
Sure, with two heads, absolutely.
Could you start working on
Sure.
that for us, please?
And-
Other
and-
people
and
want to
let me make
talk.
sure I understand the objective. You want to,
Be clear that we achieve what Lori just said, to assure that
tech-
after this one time,
everything needs to come to the council.
that everything will be, in fact, brought before this council in the normal budgetary process for review and approval to be divvied up into these multiple line items that they speak of.
For purposes of purchasing telecommunication services only,
Yes.
or equipment and services?
Whatever is in line with what is there now.
I think it talks about additional services from the communications system. Equipment as well. Yeah.
Equipment and services. Okay. Okay. So, while we got them working on that, what prevents this, or why can't we see where this is going before it goes, the technical versus the adopted amendment? We do mid-years for these types of things. What prevents that, or why are we not doing that, again, to have this more fully transparent process?
I think what prevents us is the last whereas clause and section number 5. So if those were amended to come back to you, that's an option. But
Can you read it? I don't have a book.
okay,
I just got
the
the
last
paper.
whereas clause says, the Lafayette City-Parish Consolidated Government is currently in need of additional advanced telecommunications and related services and desires to accelerate the transfer of paid imputed taxes from the communications system for the purchase of such services.
So we're accelerating the payments, but that's going into future years, right? But is there some urgency that we're trying to meet that we don't have time to adopt an ordinance? We don't have 2 weeks? Is that what you're telling? That the language, that's how you understand, like it was an emergency situation?
I don't believe it was an emergency. I just think that it was after the budget process, and this is the method they thought of getting it through. Can it wait and be redone? I would have to defer to LUS and whoever else was in need of these services.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that?
No problem with delaying that.
So I think we fix this if we just are able to use the full process. I don't have a problem with the money going into the general fund, and I'm just speaking for me, of course. And I don't have the problem with the money being dedicated to the IT demands, because even it could be worded that way and amended later if necessary. I don't have a problem, because I've heard of the IT demands that already exist. That's not my issue. My issue is that things are being done and we're being locked out. I mean, and I don't know, but it seems like that decision was made here, with all due respect, gentlemen, but the head of this government and the legislators of this government didn't say, yeah, that's okay. That's not how it works. But I think if we could at least have the opportunity to review and look at it and approve it, and then this language gets corrected, I think we're okay. But we can't start circumventing levels.
Let me just offer another approach. I mean, I certainly didn't realize we're going to have this level of discussion and this level of concern. So that we're not rushing into anything, why don't we just leave things, why don't we just defer this ordinance, leave things just like they are, which will allow us to phase in over time, and then we can come back to you with another ordinance that more reflects what the council and would like to see. So I'd be willing to just defer action on this ordinance instead of us trying to make a change on the fly.
The only concern I have about that, unless I miss something, there seems to be a need out there that we need to address, and if this don't get accelerated, those needs don't get met.
Well-
So I don't wanna throw the baby out with the bathwater if there's a fix available.
And my offer is to just defer it for tonight. Let us get back together internally and talk about the things that we've heard here so far tonight and come back with another ordinance to you. That's what my intention is, instead of us trying to do something that might actually, have to be revisited again.
Let's try to get through a couple of more speakers. Mr. Robideau has been
Chairman,
waiting.
Mr. Chairman, it might be something I'll tell you that will make a lot of this moot. Our esteemed clerk, Ms. Williams, reminded the two great legal minds, myself and Mr. Hebert, that LPUA already passed an ordinance without amendment or changes. If this body were to make any changes to the current ordinance, neither would be effective. And so essentially, it's my recommendation that you take Mr. Yuval's recommendation, and that is defer this ordinance. That will allow us time to make changes to the current ordinance in the council, under the council's agenda. We can draft an ordinance that is identical to that with the LPUA. We can reintroduce that ordinance, rescind the original ordinance, and have them both match so that going forward, everything is good and we're able to work out whatever issues need to be worked out.
Okay, all right. We're going to keep that deferment for consideration. Let's see what the rest of the members and the mayor would like to say. Mr. Robideau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think most everything's been said. I just wanted to clarify the intent. Certainly the intent of this ordinance was never to exclude the legislative process. And so if there's language that needs to be cleaned up to make sure that we come before the council on where we think the money should be spent, subject to approval by the council, I want that to be in place. But as Terry had said earlier and Laurie explained, the intent was simply that that there's a big need for IT services in a lot of the departments, public